Hello.
ಸೌಂಡ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅದೇ ಮತ್ತೆ ಇದರೊಳಗೆ ನಾವು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಈಗ ಹಿಂದೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ
ಹೋಗಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಇದು ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ?
ಹೌದು,
ಇದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಮಿನಿಮೈಸ್
ಮಿನಿಮೈಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ
ಇದನ್ನ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅದು ಶೇರಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಅವರು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ
ದೆನ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಹಿಯರ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಇದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ
ಅದು ಬೇಡ, ಅದು ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಶೇರಿಂಗ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಶೇರಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಇದಾಯ್ತು. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಶೀಟಿಗೆ ಬರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ
ಅದನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಓ ಇದನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ಎಡ್ಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಲ್ಲ ಎಡ್ಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ
PDF ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ.
Hello. Good morning. I have received your this thing. Okay. No problem. No problem. I am okay. No problem. I am in a webinar. I have received it. Don't worry. Okay.
So, Suresh, now we'll start the session. I will introduce you now, and then you can take over the session. Okay. So, good morning, students. So today it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Professor Suresh, working as Associate Professor Civil in JID. Professor Suresh has completed his degree, that is UG degree in Civil Engineering in the year of 1988 in Mysore University, in the college called as National Institute of Engineering. Then he completed his MTech. In hydraulics from National Institute of Engineering, Mysore, in the year of 1991. And as a highlight, he was a first-rank student and gold medalist for this branch. And again, he has also completed ME in Structural Engineering from Ramaiah Institute of Technology in the year of 1999. And as a recognition, he was a gold medalist student, and also he secured first rank in 7th standard district level public examinations in Mysore district. And he has a professional experience of around 20 plus years, and he has almost handled all the subjects in our civil engineering discipline. And he was guiding MTech students and BTech students, BE BTech students in structural engineering area, and also as well as hydraulics. His areas of interest are finite element analysis, soft computing techniques, fluid dynamics, plates and shells, hydrological modeling. And he has remarkable publications in various reputed journals also. And he has presented his papers in various national and international conferences. So with this introduction, I'd like to invite Professor Suresh for today's session. Thank you, sir, for being with us. So let me hand over the session to Professor Suresh now. Please, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. So now I am going to share the screen. Okay. So I think the screen is visible as well as I am audible. Okay, sir?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I want to today present is, for the sake of the 4th and 6th semester students, those who have studied fluid mechanics and also applied hydraulics in their 3rd and 4th semester, basic concepts already they have studied in their theoretical classes, and experiments also they have done in the laboratory, in the hydraulic machinery lab. So what I want to do today is, just I will recall whatever you have studied in your FM and HHM subjects and how they are useful practically. That is very important, because any subject, if you are learning any subject, you should know the significance of that subject. Then only you will be developing interest in that subject, where it is useful, why we have to study that, what is the practical significance of that subject, all those things you should know. Then only you will be developing interest, concern about that subject. So coming to this subject, fluid mechanics and applied hydraulics, water. So you are dealing with mainly water. So even though it is fluid mechanics, civil engineers, as civil engineers, we are more concerned with water, not any other fluids much. Whereas mechanical engineers, they deal with other types of fluids also, including gases. So water, it is a gift of God. You can say that this light, water and air, we can say that they are the gift of God. So we as human beings, you should be knowing how to utilize it properly. That means optimum utilization of these natural resources, water, air and light. So in that we will discuss about water now. So water is a form of energy, you know that. So the hydraulic energy, that word is applied to water only. So there are so many machines which can convert one form of energy to another form of energy. That I will discuss later. Now, why this water is very much essential? Why we have to take up the study of water? So you are going to study two aspects of water in your undergraduate level. One is the hydraulics aspect, another one is the hydrological aspect. So there is some difference between these two. Hydraulics aspect and hydrological aspect. Hydraulics aspect means we are going to study about the energy, principles of energy, what is the velocity, what is the pressure in that energy created by water, forces, all those things we are going to deal in that hydraulics aspect. Whereas in the case of hydrological aspect, we discuss about the quantification of water. That is how the water exists on the earth, below the earth, above the earth. So as groundwater, as surface water, in what form it exists, what is the quantity of water that is available, all those things we discuss in hydrology. That maybe you will be studying in your 7th semester, hydrology and irrigation engineering. Anyway, today we will concentrate on hydraulics aspects. So I have given some points. So my presentation will be like this. It is not like a PPT presentation. I am giving some important points because 1 hour 15 minutes I want to cover whatever you have studied in your FM and HHM, which is useful to your practical aspects. So that's what I wanted to discuss today. So I have written in terms of points now. So one thing is, first point is pipe flow systems. Why we have to study that applied hydraulics part? So we are designing water supply schemes, you know. So in that water supply engineering, maybe that 6th semester students, they have studied one course, in the 6th semester, water supply treatment engineering. There you are going to design the water supply schemes. There are so many units in the water treatment system. So in that pumping unit is also is one of the important thing. There you have to design the pipe network systems. So there we are going to use these principles of hydraulics. In the case of sewage pipes, so how to fix the diameter of the sewage pipe, so all those things, velocity, all those things we are going to have by the basic knowledge of this hydraulics. Then coming to the turbines, you have huge pipes carrying water with high velocity, which strikes the runners of the turbines. Those pipes are called as penstocks. So the design of penstocks, so they all include these pipe flow systems. So in the design of pipe flow systems, we require the basic knowledge of hydraulics. Next, coming to the channel flow systems. So you know that irrigation canals, silt deposition problems. So maximum discharge, we have to design the canal for maximum discharge, where that most economical channel section will come into picture, or critical flow concept will come into picture. So there also we need the concepts of hydraulics. Next, coming to economical development of a nation, you have the design of dams, aqueducts, bridges. So you may be knowing that these involve crores of rupees. So the roads, majorly, so the economy is more in the case of construction of roads, railways, and these hydraulic structures. Okay, so we should have a basic knowledge of how to design these dams, aqueducts, bridges, etc. For that also, we need the knowledge of hydraulics. Next, water resources management. This is what I told, hydrological aspect. All these involve water only, surface water, groundwater. So combined together, it is called as conjunctive use of water. So all these things we need to know about the usage of water. Then coming to design of micro and macro water storage and conveyance systems. See the wordings here. So micro means smaller quantity, macro means bigger quantity. So for storage purposes, normally we have reservoirs, tanks, like that. Depending on the quantification, you can call it as micro or macro. Coming to the conveyance system, they are nothing but pipes and canals. So in that also, we need the concept of hydraulics. Then coming to production of hydroelectric power generation, that is turbines, using turbines, and distribution of water, we need pumps. So turbines and pumps, there also we need the concept of basics of hydraulics. Then the main thing is conversion of potential energy to kinetic energy. That's what I told. From the reservoir, water strikes the runners of a turbine, means potential energy is getting converted to kinetic energy. So these things are some important points which I wanted to highlight, where these concepts of hydraulics are basically useful. Now you can write in another way also. Quantification, why we have to conduct all these in the experiments, how they are useful. So quantitative measurement of flow of water. So in your hydraulics laboratory, hydraulic machine laboratory, you conducted a lot of experiments to find the quantity of water that is flowing, maybe using venturimeter or notches or viers or venturi flume. So all those devices, you have conducted experiments. Why it is required? So to quantify the flow. So two aspects are there, mainly two aspects are there. One is quantification of water, another one is quality of water. So quality of water, we are going to decide by doing tests in the environmental engineering laboratory. So whether that water is useful for the intended purpose or not, for drinking purpose or irrigation purpose. So we are going to test the water for different physical, chemical and biological parameters in the laboratory. That is called as quality aspect of water. But here in hydraulics, we deal with quantity aspect of water, so measurement of flow. Then efficiency of machines. So you want to design a turbine for a particular efficiency, 80%, 90% efficiency. So efficiency gives an idea about how much power that can be developed. how much power that can be developed using that machine. More the efficiency, more will be the power that we can develop. So efficiency is a very important aspect in hydroelectric power generation using turbines. Next, design of pipe networks. So in water distribution systems, you will be having gravity method, pumping method, combined gravity and pumping methods. So their main thing is estimation of losses. Very, very important. So you are going to conduct experiments on major loss and minor loss in your hydraulics laboratory. Major loss will be due to frictional loss, which is calculated using the Darcy-Weisbach equation, and minor losses will be due to sudden enlargement or contraction, or it may be due to bend in pipes or elbows in pipes. So all those will come under minor losses. So you'll be having lot of these components in your water distribution network systems. Okay, so therefore, so we should know how much losses will occur when water is carried through those pipe networks. Next, how to find the time for emptying or filling a tank or a water body. So in the case of a reservoir, or it can be a big tank like that, how much time is required to empty the tank or fill the tank? So in your laboratory, the concerned experiment is your orifice and mouthpiece. So orifices and mouthpieces, in those experiments, we are going to calculate the coefficients. So CD, CC, CV, all those coefficients we are going to calculate. Why? What is the significance of those coefficients? Those coefficients naturally determine the amount of loss. For example, if the coefficient of discharge is 0.9, what does it indicate? It indicates that your actual discharge is 90% of the theoretical discharge. So 10% loss is there in the discharge. So coefficient always gives an idea about the percentage of loss that is occurring during that, because we are interested in actual discharge only. Theoretical discharge is calculated using formula. Actual discharge is measured in the tank using a tank or any other method. Okay, so actual discharge is calculated, theoretical discharge is calculated using formula, actual discharge is measured. So the relationship between those two is expressed as a coefficient. So that coefficient gives an idea about the losses. We should be very careful, because sometimes the losses will be very high. I will discuss that later. What are the different types of losses in systems? So orifice and mouthpiece, that's the better example for time for emptying or filling a tank. Then we are going to do some model studies also. Why these model studies are required? Because we cannot conduct experiment on the actual structures, that is prototypes. We have to conduct experiments on the models in the laboratory, and using some scale ratios that you have studied in your hydraulics, I think, about the dimensional analysis and model studies, using some scale ratios for different aspects, maybe velocity, discharge, pressure, inertia force, viscous force. You have got lot of scale ratios defined. Using those scale ratios, you can predict the results from the prototypes. So experiments are conducted on the models, but results for the prototypes will be predicted using those scale ratio. So that is why we need to know the basic concepts as well as the practical significance of all the experiments which you have conducted in your laboratory, how they will be helpful in the field. So that's what we have to see. Now let me go to the next this one. See, in this I have given some sketches. I think it is visible. All this you have studied. So simple sketches I have written. Flow measuring devices. So you have conducted experiments on some of these devices in your laboratory. So quantification of flow. So these are all devices are required to quantify the flow, discharge. Okay. So for example, notches. So what's a notch? So notch, you know that it is a device used to measure the discharge in the canals. Usually flow in channels. They may be irrigation channel, or it can be a channel for any other purpose. So by measuring the depth over that sill. This is called as sill. Just by measuring the depth of flow, you can compute the discharge. That is the wonderful aspect of fluid mechanics. So by using that equation, you can always calculate the theoretical discharge, and by having a measuring tank or some other device, you can measure the actual discharge, take the ratio, actual discharge divided by theoretical discharge, that gives the coefficient of discharge. So depending on the type of notch, that value may vary. So for example, CD may be between 0.65 to 0.7 in the case of triangular notch, and in the case of rectangular notch it is slightly less, and in the case of trapezoidal notch also it will be between 0.6 to 0.7. The why 0.65, 0.7 is the CD value. Once that is calibrated, then using certain scale ratios, you can use that model to predict the actual value in the prototype. So that is why these experiments are conducted. So to quantify the flow in irrigation canals practically. So practically, if you see in the field, this width, depth will be very high compared to your laboratory model. Okay. Similarly, weirs and spillways. So they are measured to, they are used to measure the excess flow. For example, this is a sketch of a weir or a spillway. Excess of water above this crest of spillway, whatever excess water is there, that is taken onto the downstream side. In fact, hydraulic jump also will form on this side. So this is another aspect. Hydraulic jump, you can make use of it for so many purposes. So turbulence, due to the turbulence effect here, so that supercritical flow will change to subcritical flow. Okay, so there you can make use of this hydraulic jump for several applications, and this is another way of measuring the flow. So just by measuring this depth above this crest, you can calculate the discharge. That is a wonderful aspect. The thing is, when you are using a theoretical discharge equation, losses are not considered. That is very, very important. When you are measuring actual discharge, losses are there. So that is why actual discharge is always less than theoretical discharge. So this is how we are going to use practically. Then venturimeter also we have done. So venturimeter, where it is used to measure the discharge in pipes. So these are notches. They are used to, or notches and weirs, they are used to measure the discharge in channels, whereas the venturimeter is used to measure the discharge in pipes. So there also, based on that Bernoulli's principle, so by varying the, just by varying the diameter, you see here, inlet is there, throat is there, by varying the diameter, area will be reduced. When area is reduced, velocity increases, because you have that continuity equation. Q is equal to A into V. So treating Q as constant, when A is reduced, V will increase. When velocity increases, pressure reduces. Please see the concept here. So area reduces, velocity increases, pressure reduces. So that pressure reduces because of that Bernoulli's principle. So two important principles are there here in this experiment. One is continuity equation, that is law of conservation of mass. Another one is Bernoulli's equation, law of conservation of energy. So when area is reduced, velocity increases, pressure decreases. So by knowing the pressure difference between these 2 points, that pressure difference can be related to the discharge, Q. So from that, you can compute that CD value. So this venturimeter is used to measure the flow in pipes. Similar to that venturimeter, same principle, Bernoulli's principle, is used in venturi flume. So this venturi flume will be used in measuring flow in channels. So there what happens, there also the principle is same. So width is reduced, this is plan, this is elevation. Width is reduced. When width is reduced, what happens, there will be a creation of afflux here. So just by measuring this width and depth of water, you, at the two sections, throat section and inlet section, you can compute the discharge and CD value. So that is a fantastic application of venturi flume. Coming to this orifice and mouthpiece, just by measuring this head. So this head over the orifice in the tank, and by knowing the diameter of this orifice, you can compute the discharge. So these are the wonderful aspects of your hydraulic machinery lab and flow lab. So coming to these losses in pipes, so this is how that pipe network will be there. In water supply distribution system, one main pipe will be there. From the main pipe, you'll be having branches of pipes like this. So there, when a flow, the flow here and the flow here, they will be different. Please note that, because there will be lot of losses occurring when it travels from this point to this point. So that means this entire pipe network should be designed by considering these losses in pipes. Frictional loss, bends, expansion, contraction, these are all called as minor losses. This is a major loss using Darcy-Weisbach equation, which you have studied. So very, very important to fix the diameter of the pipes. To fix the diameter of the pipes, so by assuming some velocity, depending upon the material of the pipe, you can assume certain velocities in the pipe. So you can fix the diameter by calculating all these losses. So these losses are very, very important in the water distribution system. So similarly, in the case of channel flows, you will be having different types of losses. In the case of channel flows, you have conveyance loss. Conveyance means when the water travels from, for example, from the reservoir to the field. If you consider a reservoir or a dam, from the dam, water is taken to the field through irrigation channels. So from the reservoir to the fields, that definitely it will be in terms of kilometers. The length will be in kilometers, channel length will be in kilometers. So a lot of conveyance losses will take place. Friction losses will be there in the channel due to the boundary and the bed. Then evaporation losses will be there. Seepage losses also will be there. So these are the losses we have to account for in the case of channel flows. Only after the accurate measurement of the losses or approximate measurement of the losses, in some cases, you can design the canals. So mainly, most economical channel sections will be designed in the case of channels. So then I told about the scale ratios. When you conduct model studies, those model study results can be used to predict the behavior of the results of the actual structures, that is prototypes. We cannot conduct experiments on the prototypes, only model study results will be used, but using certain scale ratios. You will be having different scale ratios in horizontal directions, in vertical directions. Normally horizontal scale ratio means along the length. So if the flow takes place along the length of a channel or a pipe, so that is horizontal scale. Normally it is taken as in terms of more than hundreds, 1:100, 1:500, 1:1000, like that. Whereas vertical scale ratio, they correspond to diameter of the pipe or depth and width of channels, like that. That is vertical depth or vertical scale can be considered. But normally that value will be 1:10, 1:15, 1:20, like that. So if you have that horizontal and vertical scales values, you can always compute the other scale ratios. For example, for velocity or any other force energy scale ratios, you can compute. All this you have studied in your model studies. Why I am telling you all this is, whatever experiments you have conducted, whatever basic concepts you have studied in your FM and applied hydraulics, very, very important when you go to the field. So when you go to whatever you have with water, when you come across with water, these concepts you should keep it in mind. Okay, coming and turbines and pumps. Just I have given only the difference. Only one difference I have given. Later on I will explain. So turbines and pumps. In the case of turbine, hydraulic energy gets converted to mechanical energy. So input is hydraulic energy. This gamma QH is the hydraulic energy. This is the formula you are using in the laboratory for computing the input to the turbine. Whereas mechanical energy is the output. Whereas in the case of pumps, input is mechanical energy, output is hydraulic energy. See the basic difference here. So this is about the aspects, important aspects. I have related what are the experiments we have conducted in the lab, how they are useful in the field. Okay, that's what I wanted to explain. Now let me glance some of the basic concepts of that FM in fast. I have given, so very, very important concept in fluid mechanics is viscosity. Viscosity is the main thing, but water doesn't have much viscosity. It is treated as an ideal fluid. It is not a real fluid. It is an ideal fluid. But we civil engineers, we are using water in the most cases. Okay, we are not worried about other types of fluids. So a fluid which can flow is a fluid. A substance which can flow is called as a fluid. So water, its viscosity value is very less. So that's why it is taken as an ideal fluid. And pressure is very, very important. The concept of pressure is very important in the case of fluid mechanics. So pressure and velocity, they are the two important backbones of fluid mechanics. They are interrelated as per the Bernoulli's principle. So how to express that pressure? So pressure can be expressed in two ways. One is as pascals, that is Newton per meter square, force exerted on unit area. Another one as pressure head in meters of water. So this is the equation we are going to use for that. P is equal to gamma h. So where gamma is the specific weight of that liquid, maybe water, into h is the called as the meters. In meters of that particular liquid, it is called as head, pressure head. If you write in P, it is pressure intensity. If you write in H, it is pressure head. So this is called as the hydrostatic law. Very important law. From this, you can convert the pressure of one unit to another unit. From one unit to another unit, you can convert. And the basic law concerning to viscosity is Newton's law of viscosity, which you have studied. So this is the equation, tau is equal to mu into dV by dy. So whenever a fluid flows, water flows, there will be some shear stress exerted along each layer that you have studied. That is, shear stress is expressed as tau here. Tau is the shear stress, mu is called as the viscosity, dynamic viscosity. When it flows, it is called as dynamic viscosity. So mu is into dV by dy, this is called as velocity gradient. The principle here is the velocity changes from layer to layer when the fluid flows. Okay, that is the basic idea here. So from the experiments, Newton has found out that. So velocity varies from layer to layer, and that gradient is called as dV by dy. This is the basic principle behind the viscosity of a liquid. So you have studied about all these things. Viscosity is expressed in poise. One more viscosity is there, that is called as kinematic viscosity, which gives by the ratio of mu by rho. So all these are very, very important. For water, I will give the values later. And I told about the Bernoulli's equation. So before that, let me explain these three. Very, very important basic laws of fluid mechanics. You have got three basic laws about water also. So fluid means it can be water or any other fluid also. Three basic laws are there. Conservation of mass, law of conservation of mass, law of conservation of energy, law of conservation of momentum. So based on this law of conservation of mass, even in the case of solids also, it happens. So your continuity equation, what I told you, Q is equal to A into V. It is continuity equation. So A1 V1 is equal to A2 V2. That's what the concept we are going to use, that is derived based on the law of conservation of mass. Mass can neither be created nor destroyed. For mass of fluid, that's what we are taking. Second one is conservation of energy, which is from using that Bernoulli's equation has been derived. So in the case of Bernoulli's equation, see here, that's what I wanted to explain. Very, very important. This is the backbone of fluid mechanics. Your total energy remains constant at a particular section in a flow. That is the concept. Very simple concept. So total energy remains constant at a particular section in a flow, in a fluid flow. I have taken a tapering pipe so that velocities are different, because area, once the diameter is different, area will be different, velocity will be different, pressure also will be different. So Z is called as the datum head, P by gamma is called as the pressure head, V square by 2G is called as the velocity head or kinetic head. So pressure and velocity, they are interrelated. When this becomes constant, you see, when this becomes, RHS becomes constant, and suppose if Z1 is equal to Z2, then the thing is, P and V, they are inversely proportional, because this is a constant, RH is a constant. That's the concept. So when velocity increases, pressure reduces at that point. This has been derived. All these derivations we have done. So datum head, pressure head, and velocity head, so remains constant at a particular section in a flow. So this is the basic continuity equation and Bernoulli's equation. They are the two important principles which are used in deriving most of the fluid flow equations in fluid mechanics. So in all the equations you can see Venturi meter derivation or orifice meter derivation or petard tube derivation or notches, VS, whatever you take, orifice, mouthpiece, in all the derivations, continuity equation and Bernoulli's equation, they are used. So to quantify the flow, these two equations are very, very useful. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell. The third one is conservation of momentum. Law of conservation of momentum. So momentum means mass into velocity. See here, m into v. That is momentum. So mass remains constant. That means you can have change in momentum only if you have change in velocity. So only if you have change in velocity, you can have change in momentum. So this principle is used in calculating the force of a jet of water striking the vanes of a runner. So that's also you have studied in your applied hydraulics, where you have calculated the forces acting on jet of water or fluid on different types of vanes. Maybe flat vane, inclined vane, or curved vane, maybe single vane or series of vanes mounted on a wheel. Why this is important? This is important because whatever force you are going to have calculate, when it is multiplied by the velocity of that vane, you are going to get the work done. Work done is your output. In the case of turbine, work done per second is the output. That is why we have to calculate this. Based on the different types of vanes, your F formula will be different. U is the velocity of that vane or the runner, or that impeller. In the case of pump, it is impeller. In the case of turbine, it is runner. So F into U is your output, work done. Then input is your kinetic energy, because in turbines, kinetic energy, that water energy, hydraulic energy is in the form of kinetic energy. Later on, it is converted to mechanical energy by conversion. So kinetic energy is half mv square. Okay, that we know. So when you simplify that, you will be getting this equation gamma QH that I have shown here. How you got that gamma QH? In your laboratory, you are going to directly use this formula. For input of turbine, gamma QH is the formula. Gamma is the specific weight of water, 9.81 kilonewton per meter cube. Q is the discharge, which is measured using a Venturi meter or any other device, and H is the pressure head measured at the entrance of the turbine by using a pressure gauge. So by knowing gamma QH, you can compute the input, and by this F into U, you can compute the output. So output divided by input gives the efficiency of the jet or the machine. So very, very important. So impulse momentum equation is useful in computing the finally efficiency of any hydraulic machine, maybe turbine or a pump. So now I told about the coefficients, different coefficients used in the laboratory. So CD, CC, CV, all those things we are going to use. Of course, in the case of orifice, you have calculated all these three. In other devices, you will be using CD. So Venturi meter, Venturi flume, and other devices, notches, you are going to calculate CD. As I already told, actual discharge divided by theoretical discharge. So actual discharge is always less than theoretical discharge, because when you are deriving the equation for theoretical discharge, you are neglecting losses. You are neglecting losses. So when you neglect loss, it is taken as 100%. But considering losses, you are having that actual discharge, then some 10%, 20% losses will be there. If you deduct that, you are going to get that CD. Maybe 80% divided by 100% means it is 0.8, like that. So CD value is 0.8. So very, very important, CD, CC, CV, they are important to design in the field, if you want to design any pipe network or canals. So from the model studies, if you are interpreting to the prototype, these coefficients are very, very important, as well as the scale ratios are also equally important. Okay, then you have got here turbines, say I wanted to tell you about these turbines because practically the turbines are the ones which are used to develop hydroelectric power. So based on the pressure available at the entrance of the turbine, you can have different types of turbines. So this you have studied already, just I am recalling. So which turbine you have to adopt? It depends on so many parameters. So number one, what is the pressure available at the turbine end at that section? Number two, what is the discharge available? How much water is available to strike the runner? So that is also important. Number three, how much power should be generated? How much power should be generated? That is also you should be knowing. So depending on all these parameters, due to the practical conditions, whatever is available, you have to decide the type of turbine. So you have studied three types of turbines in your coursework. So if the available head is more than 300 meters, if you have got lot of pressure, if you have got enormous pressure, then you can go for Pelton turbine. And specific speed is another concept. So specific speed, actually, you cannot measure a specific speed, but it can be calculated. So you please note one thing, some of the quantities are calculated, some of the quantities are measured. So you should know the difference. Calculated means using some theoretical background, you are going to use some formula and you are going to calculate. So this is calculated, NS is calculated. But certain things you can measure. If you have a tank, if you know the area of the tank, if you know the depth of water collected for a particular time interval, then you can measure the discharge. You can measure the discharge, whereas that is actual discharge. Theoretical discharge, you can only calculate. The specific speed is a concept. Specific speed of a turbine is nothing but the speed that is required to develop 1 kilowatt power when the pressure is 1 meter. So that is to have 1 meter pressure, it is very difficult. So that's why it is only a concept. So this formula we are going to use to compute the specific speed. So based on the value of the specific speed and the pressure available at the entrance of the turbine, you can decide the type of the turbine that can be installed. So high head, low discharge, you can have Pelton turbine. Okay, medium head, medium discharge, you can have Francis turbine. Low head, high discharge, you can go for Kaplan turbine. So these things are very, very important. And when you are conducting experiments on the turbines, you are going to calculate the efficiency. Very, very important. In the design of turbines, you should have maximum efficiency. Maximum efficiency means losses should be less. When losses are less, you can have maximum efficiency. So that is worked out by conducting repeated experiments on that particular turbine or a pump. So this typical graph, what I have shown, this is called as operating characteristics of a turbine. So you can see here, y-axis you have got efficiency and output, x-axis you have got discharge. So discharge is plotted against efficiency and output, and typical graph will be something like this. So this is a straight line, whereas this is a curve. So this graph is for constant speed. So if the runner is rotated with constant speed for different discharges, you can vary the discharge by using that control valve, which is provided in the experiment equipment. So you can vary the discharge for constant speed of the runner. By varying the discharge, you have to compute this efficiency and output, and for whatever discharge, you have got maximum efficiency, that is taken as the design discharge for that particular turbine. And based on the formula which is given in the laboratory manual, whatever corresponds to you in your college, so you can calculate that input and output, you can draw the graph. Why I want to tell you this concept of maximum efficiency is very, very important. So corresponding to that maximum efficiency, whatever discharge is there, that is called as maximum, that is called as optimum discharge or design discharge. Similarly, in the case of pump, see, this is the characteristic curve in the case of pump. So once again, this is done for constant speed. Here also H versus eta. So H and eta, head, total head on the pump. So in the case of pumps, what happens, The main difference is turbine and pump is, in the case of pump, it converts mechanical energy to hydraulic energy. It has got different types of heads called suction head, delivery head, head loss due to friction in the pipes. Okay, so you have to have the idea of all those heads, and then you have to add. If you add all those heads, then you are going to get the total head. This H is called as the total head. So in this case also, discharge versus head and efficiency, they are plotted, and for whatever value of discharge you have got maximum efficiency, and for whatever value of head you are getting maximum efficiency, they are called as the design head. I have shown here design head and design discharge for that particular pump. So why these experiments are done? So these values are the basics for designing pumps in the case of water supply systems. Maybe that 6th semester students, those who have joined here, they may be knowing. In one of the modules, they have got that design of pumps also, water distribution network. There you have to calculate this head loss due to friction, that suction loss, and delivery head loss, delivery head. Then you have to add all the three to get the total head. By knowing the total head, using that formula gamma QH, you can compute the output. So gamma QH becomes the output in the case of pumps. Okay, so this is about the pumps. Now, two very, very important dimensionless numbers we are going to use in our hydraulics. They are the Reynolds number and the Froude number. So Reynolds number, it is very much useful in the case of design of pipe flows. Because based on the Reynolds number value, flows are classified as laminar, turbulent, transition flow. I have given the values here. So laminar flow means less than 500, turbulent flow means greater than 2000. Okay. So, and in between it is transition flow. So we can see that it is a measure of, Reynolds number is a measure of inertia force divided by viscous force. That is the basic definition of Reynolds number. It's a dimensionless number. So inertia force divided by viscous force is Reynolds number. If you use the exact expressions and if you simplify, you'll get a simple expression like rho Vd by mu, where this rho is the specific mass of the liquid which is flowing. If it is water, rho is taken as 1000 kg per meter cube. Velocity in that pipe is V. D is the diameter of the pipe. Mu is the viscosity of the dynamic viscosity of that water or fluid, whichever is flowing there. So you can observe here when the mu value increases, Reynolds number reduces. Re value reduces because mu is in the denominator. So that means it comes to a laminar flow. High viscous fluids, they exhibit laminar flow. For example, thick oils, real fluids, we call them as real fluids. So thick oils, they exhibit laminar flow. But if you take water, water exhibits a turbulent flow. Water exhibits a turbulent flow because viscosity of water is very, very less. So that is why it is treated as ideal flow. Viscosity means it is the resistance offered to flow. That is viscosity. So in water, resistance offered to flow is less. So that's why mu is less. When mu is less, Re will be very high. Next, coming to Froude number, this is useful in channel flows. I told you about maximum discharge concept in the case of channel flows. So in the case of critical flow, you'll be having maximum discharge for a given specific energy. So all those you have studied. So critical flow means the Froude's number value will be equal to 1. That is V by root GD. So here V is the velocity of flow in the channel, G is 9.81 meter per second square, and D is called as the hydraulic depth. That is a ratio of area divided by top width. So all those things you have learned in your hydraulics. So this is very, very important in the case of channel design. So where you can have critical flow by adjusting these values. You might have studied for rectangular channels, how to compute that critical depth of flow, critical velocity of flow, all those things. So you can have maximum discharge for a given specific energy if the flow is critical. So this is the ratio of inertia force to gravity force. So Froude number is a ratio of inertia force to gravity force. If you simplify those expressions, you will be getting V by root GD, whereas Reynolds number is a ratio of inertia force to viscous force. Okay, so this is what I wanted to tell. Now, so the next one is, you have done a lot of experiments on the flow measuring devices in your laboratory, maybe on notches or venturimeter. So notches I can take as an example for channel flow. Venturimeter I can take an example for pipe flow. So in the case of triangular notch, you have conducted experiment. So that finding the value of CD graphically, that is called as calibration. So the word calibration is used for finding the value of coefficient of discharge graphically. So to plot the graph, of course, you should have the values of actual discharge as well as theoretical discharge. So theoretical discharge, is already told, it is calculated using formula. Actual discharge is measured using a measuring tank or a collecting tank. So by knowing those values, you can plot the graph, and you can plot a graph of here actual discharge versus that head. Head is nothing but the depth of water that is measured over the notch. By having this graph, from the graph, always you can find out its CD value. This calibrated value is used using certain scale ratios. This value of CD can be used to predict the discharge in the actual structure. This is what the basic significance is. And you have got in notches one special type of notch is there called as Cipolliti notch. Cipolliti notch means it's a special type of trapezoidal notch. In that case, the side slope is fixed, 1 horizontal to 4 vertical. So that theta by 2 angle will be 14 degrees. 14 degrees, or tan theta by 2 will be 1 by 4. Why this notch is special? Because when you use this equation, you can calculate the discharge. This equation corresponds to equation of discharge through a rectangular notch with end contraction. End contraction means here, see here, when the water flows like this, there will be a contraction in the flow. This end contraction can happen only in the case of this rectangular and trapezoidal notches. Okay, so when water enters like this, the contraction will be there at the ends of the notch. When you use the equation for rectangular notch with end contraction, you are going to get the equation for Cipolliti notch. So that is why in field, Cipolliti notches are preferred, because it accounts for the exact losses. End contraction means it is nothing but a loss only. So exact losses, exact value of CD, you can get using this Cipolliti notch using simple formula of a rectangular notch. Now you might have learned about different types of flows. So about steady flow, unsteady flow, uniform, non-uniform, like that. So steady flow means if the fluid properties, they don't change with respect to time at any point or a section in a pipe or in a channel, so then it is called as steady flow. So it is very difficult to have steady flow. So in the laboratory, when you are taking readings, you should take the reading for a steady flow. When the flow is steady, at that time only you have to take the reading. If you are taking during unsteady flow, then you will be having erroneous results. So that is why we have to wait for some time. For taking reading in the notch or whatever it is, you have to wait for some time. So, but practically steady flow, very difficult to have. So you can expect steady flow only in the case of a pipe, long pipe with same diameter with same discharge. So discharge is same, diameter is same, pipe is long. In such a case, you can expect a steady flow. In all the other cases, if the discharge is varied, then it is unsteady flow. Okay, uniform, non-uniform. This is also difficult to get. If the velocity remains same over from one point to another point over a particular length, then it is uniform flow. So otherwise it is non-uniform flow. Okay, suppose if you come across some slope in channels, so then it becomes non-uniform, because velocity increases wherever there is some slope. So when velocity increases, so there will be change in velocity and it becomes a non-uniform flow. Your hydraulic jump, I told you about hydraulic jump, that is an example for non-uniform flow. Depth of flow varies. So like that, laminar turbulent already I have explained. So these are some of the important types of flows which we come across in our laboratory, and main difference between pipe flow and channel flow you should know, because these two are the main what we can say water conveyance systems. Water is taken from one end to another end, from a reservoir to irrigation field, from a overhead tank to taps in the houses. So pipe distribution network system will be there in water supply, and channel distribution network system will be there in irrigation. Okay, they are the practical examples. So in pipe flow, mainly the flow will be due to the pressure difference. So only if there is any pressure difference between 2 points, you can have a pipe flow. Okay. Whereas in the case of channel flow, the flow will be due to only gravity. That means only channel flow you can have only if you provide a slope. Whereas if you can have pipe flow in vertical pipes also. You cannot have vertical channels. So flow occurs only due to weight of water in the case of channels, that is gravity force, whereas flow occurs due to pressure difference between 2 points in the case of pipe flow. And in the case of pipe flow, viscous force is the main force which is causing the flow. Shear stresses will cause that viscous flow, whereas this gravity force is main in the case of channel flows. That's why I told about Reynolds number and Froude number. Reynolds number is important in pipe flow, Froude's number is important in channel flow. And flow possible against gravity in the case of pipe flow. You might have seen, that is in the case of pump, you can take an example. So in the case of pump, water is sucked from the sump tank. So negative head will be there. Then it will be taken through the delivery pipe and it is discharged to the delivery tank. That means flow is against gravity. Upward flow is possible in the case of pipe. That is due to that pressure difference. Whereas it is not possible in the case of channel flow. And examples are, I have told Venturi meter and orifice meter. They are examples for measuring flow in pipes. Whereas Venturi flumes, notches, VS, they are all examples for measuring the flow in channels. So now, to conclude, what I wanted to tell you is, in the basic concepts of fluid mechanics, you should know are about the viscosity, Newton's law. Whenever you have a highly viscous liquid, it is called as a real fluid. But we civil engineers, we deal with water mainly. Water is an ideal fluid. Viscosity is less in water. So mainly, only in the case of pipe flows, we take the value of that RE, that Reynolds number value. And the 3 basic principles of fluid mechanics, they are law of conservation of mass. According to that, your discharge is constant from one section to another section. That is the meaning of law of conservation of mass, continuity equation. Second is law of conservation of energy. That is the Bernoulli's equation. Total head remains constant at a particular section in a flow, whether it is a channel flow or a pipe flow. So total head consists of 3 parts. That is the datum head, pressure head, and velocity head that remains constant. That is the meaning of that law of conservation of energy. Coming to the third law, law of conservation of momentum, which is used in deriving the expressions for the force of jet striking a vane or series of vanes, as in the case of pumps and turbines, which is helpful in calculating the efficiency by knowing the output and input. So by using these 3 important basic laws of fluid mechanics, we can have the idea about the efficiency of the machines also. And coming to this calibration aspects, finding CD graphically by conducting number of trials in the laboratory, we can get a value of the CD, coefficient of discharge. So which can be used in the field to predict the actual discharge in the field by having some scale ratios. So scale ratios will be, you can derive always the scale ratios for different physical quantities like velocity, pressure, etc., depending on the type of the problem. And by using certain laws, Reynolds law, Froude's law, like that, you can always use those model laws to predict the values for the prototypes. Okay, and some of the important devices which we are going to use in the laboratory, I have told, and using those CD values, you can always get the values in the prototype. That is the critical flow. Similar to that, you can have most economical channel sections. So we have to design most economical channel sections because the cost of construction of channels should be minimum. So if you want to have for a given discharge, if you want to have most economical channel section, the wetted perimeter should be minimum. So you have different conditions for different types of channels, which you have derived in your open channel hydraulics chapter. Okay, so this is what, and always one more thing, you should know how to convert the pressure of one liquid in terms of another liquid. So this is a simple basic equation which is used to convert pressure of one liquid to another liquid, because always we cannot use water for all the purpose. Mercury is used in the laboratory to measure the pressure differences or pressure at a point using a simple manometer or a differential manometer. Why mercury is used? So mercury is used because it has got high viscosity and vapor pressure is very low and it won't mix with water. You can measure high values of pressure by having a smaller deviation or deflection in the mercury in the manometer. So that is why mercury is used. Almost it is 13.6 times heavier than water. So specific gravity of mercury is 13.6, whereas that of water is 1. So if you want to convert pressure of water into pressure of mercury, this is how we are going to use. S1 H1 is equal to S2 S2. Simple equation. Suppose S1 is specific gravity of water, H1 is pressure of water, S2 is specific gravity of mercury, H2 is pressure in terms of mercury. You can compute any one of H1 or H2 by knowing the other three quantities here. And you know the principle of manometers. Just to measure the difference in pressure, we are going, or pressure at a point, we are going to use either simple manometer or differential manometers. I have given here some of the values for water, properties of water, because we civil engineers, we in most of the cases, we use water only as the fluid. Rho value, specific mass value of water, 1000 kg per meter cube. Gamma value, 9810. So these values you should know actually. So better you know, because for water at least you should be knowing the value, surface tension value, bulk modulus of elasticity, viscosity, dynamic viscosity, kinematic viscosity. So all those things you should be knowing the values for water. So finally, to conclude, I don't know how much my lecture is useful to you. Already you have studied all these things in your concepts in FM as well as hydraulics. Just I wanted to recall whatever you have studied. So how these concepts are useful in practice, that's what I wanted to tell. So these are the devices which we use in the laboratory. So using these devices, you can always compute the values in the field. So that's what I wanted to tell. So that means water, we have to be very careful with dealing with water now, because both hydraulics aspect as well as hydrological aspect are important. Hydrology you have not yet studied, but that is also equally important. How much water is available on the earth, below the earth, above the earth, in three different forms: groundwater or surface water. How to quantify it, how to measure it. Some of them can be measured, some of them can be estimated or calculated. Okay, so only two things are possible. Some things you can measure. So for example, when the flow in a river can be measured using gauges. Stream gauging is done. That you are going to study in your hydrology, how stream gauging is done. You might have seen that also in the field. A small stream or a river, you can always measure the flow in a river. And whereas in some of the cases, you have to estimate using formula. For example, groundwater. Suppose if you want to have a yield from a well, So what is the yield from a well, or what is the discharge you can expect from a open well or a tube well? So by having different equations, basic concepts, by knowing the pressure concept, all those things, you can have different equations for different types of wells, and those equations are used to calculate the quantity. So some of them can be measured, some of them can be calculated. So quantification as well as quality, as I already told, both those two are important with respect to water. Okay, so I hope I have covered some of the aspects which may be useful in future for you. And let me conclude my session. If there are any queries, you can ask me. Sir, can I stop at this stage?
Yes, Professor. Yes, Professor.
Okay. So if there are any queries, sir, they can ask me, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, students, you can ask any queries if you want to clarify with the professor. So, one thing I want to ask you, sir.
Yes, please.
Um, can you please tell the career option in the field of hydraulics?
Okay. Career option in the field of hydraulics.
As you are given numerous inputs, I think these inputs are very valuable to the students in the preparation of engineering services exams like that. So,
Yes.
by grasping your lecture, I observed a very fruitful inputs from you. So, is there any other career option related to the field of hydraulics?
Yes. So as you already told, maybe in that it will be useful in that Public Service Commission examinations. Normally, hydraulics
Yes, sir.
we need in the design of hydraulic structures mainly. That hydraulic design and structural design, two types of designs will be there in the hydraulic structure design projects. So, but actually, for example, I will take a simple example. You want to design a bridge.
Yes, sir.
So there you need to calculate the linear waterway of flux, all those things. So for that, you need the basic knowledge
Yes.
of this hydraulics. That is one thing. And coming to your water supply schemes, which I told about the pipe distribution networks and all. So in a water supply scheme, those who are in 6th semester now,
Yes.
they have studied one subject, water supply subject. There also it is very much useful, because starting from the water quality treatment aspect, maybe sedimentation, filtration, disinfection, all those things. The last one is distribution. After disinfection process, that water distribution network will start from there. So design of overhead tank and that public water supply distribution pipe network systems, Hardy Cross method, whatever we are going to use, there the concept of hydraulics is very, very important. And mainly maybe government, only government jobs, I think they will call. In private, what happens in private, these things, companies, normally sometimes they will take a project and they will hire engineers for that. So you should be knowing the hydraulic aspects also, very, very important. So what happens, students, what they do is normally they think that structural design is only important. So since I am both in structures and hydraulics, I am telling the students that both are equally important, because suppose you are going to design a multi-storied building, let us say, sir, I can only design the building, only beams, columns, slab, all those things, but I don't know how to design the pumping system and all, means it is incomplete. So that's what students, I advise you to parallelly study these aspects also, because civil engineering is a very vast. You should be proud to be a civil engineer. First sentence should be like that only. Actually, today I did not tell that. So you should be proud to be a civil engineer, because it is an evergreen branch. Civil engineering is an evergreen branch. No end to that. Sometimes there may be some lacunae. That means there may be some problems due to the infrastructure development. This thing may be slightly delayed. For example, now that Corona, because of that, some problems may be there, but it is not permanent. You should not be afraid of that. you should take it as a challenge. Civil engineering is a challenging subject. So without civil engineers, no other engineering can exist. That everybody should know. You should be proud. So normally students think that, sir, I am a civil engineer. Okay, no, you should not be dull. I advise the students, you should not be dull. You have got lot of opportunities, but you should excel. You should excel in that particular thing. So parallelly, you should concentrate on all the aspects, because structures, hydraulics, environmental, geotechnical, construction management. See how many varieties are there in civil engineering. So you should be concentrating on all. Sir, I will only concentrate on structures means that example I gave, sir, I know how to design the building, but I don't know how to design the water supply system. So that that becomes a lacuna. So you should learn everything. If you know everything, then definitely you will be absorbed. Maybe in government or maybe in some private. So please, students, you are those who are in 6th semester, maybe next semester they may have some campus interviews and all. Be thorough with all the aspects of civil engineering. Don't narrow your knowledge, you widen your knowledge. So meet your faculty, so all experts are there. So then you can have guidelines. So that means you should learn parallelly. Basic concepts should be thorough. Please keep it in mind. Basic concepts. You can use any software. So now civil engineering students, they can use any software. That is only application part. But if something happens wrong, if the results are wrong in the software, output is wrong, you may get some erroneous results, then you should be in a position to identify where that mistake is. What is the input we have given? Is there any mistake in that input data? That also is very important. So those basic knowledge they will ask, very, very important. So application part is separate. So understanding the basic concepts is separate. In all the subjects, I want you to learn the basic concepts first. That is the main purpose of undergraduation. Okay. Then in post-graduation, of course, you will be studying about in detail about particular specialization. That is different. But in undergraduate level, try to learn all the things. You have got tremendous opportunity. Don't worry. Don't worry. Definitely, boom will come. So it is a cycle. Don't worry about that. So sometimes computer science, it will be in the higher end. Civil and mechanical may be at the lower end. But it will not be permanent. It's a cycle. So you will be on the higher end. So be positive always, think positive always, study positive always, remember positive always. So that is my suggestion to the younger generation, that is for the students. So don't worry, you have got a lot of that means opportunities in future. When you come out of the college, definitely you'll be having. But only thing is, my sincere advice is, try to learn the basics. Try to learn the basics. Okay. So, sir, anything is there?
Nice, motivating and inspiration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Words.
Students, any student? One or two?
So with this,
Hello, can you hear my voice, sir?
Yes, please.
Can you hear my voice, sir? This is Manish,
yeah. I can hear.
Okay, sir. Sir, I think thank you. I mean, you have given very good input to the students. I think this was something which was required, because students are a bit worried regarding their future, what's going to happen because of this pandemic and all. I think you have really inspired and motivated the students, stressing on how important is the basics, because if their basics are strong, the foundation is strong, I think they will probably excel. So I think you have done, you have given a very good advice to them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I think I enjoy your presentation, sir. So, it
Thank
was
you.
very fruitful. This session will be very helpful to the students who are probably preparing for higher studies or for competitive exams, because generally generally tend to neglect the hydraulics subject because of not understanding the concepts. Proper way. I think you have really made the concepts easier for the students to understand, and I'm sure probably this session will be helpful to the students who are probably preparing for the competitive exam. You also gave a lot of examples where exactly we make use of these theoretical equations, these concepts and all, by giving a practical example. So thank you so much, sir. It was a really good session. I'm sure if time goes well, we will invite you for many more sessions to address our students in the field of structural and hydraulic related subjects, sir. Thank you so
Okay.
much. It was a pleasure to have you on the for this course, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks all the students. Best of luck. God bless you. Have a nice future. Don't worry. Be positive. Think positive always. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Bye,
I
sir.
will leave the meeting. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
சார் லிங்க் வந்துருச்சா? மெயில் அனுப்பிச்சிருந்தேன், லிங்க் வந்துருச்சா? வந்துருச்சு. Manish sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Manish, Dr. Nathan will join the session very shortly.
Right. I don't know. Again,